The next section we're going to look at is with trigonometric equations. Now that said, we're going to have to learn a few other things before we get into sort of solving trig equations. One of the things we're going to look at is something called the CAST rule. And it's an acronym to help us remember the signs, whether they're positive or negative for each trig ratio within quadrants. So we've got this diagram in your notes here, and you can fill this in as I talk through it. But the A stands for all, and what that means in quadrant 1 is all three trig ratios, sine, cos, and tan, will always be positive. And that's simply because on the x-axis you've got a positive here, and on the y-axis you have positive. So there's only positive numbers within here. In quadrant 2, you would have sine theta being positive and the other two trig ratios negative. And that's because when you look this way, you're going to go this way. So is negative, which is the cos, and sine is the y-axis, positive. We'll talk a little bit more about the positive and negatives with sine and cosine when we look at the unit circle. Let's look at quadrant 3. Tan is the only positive one, and I'll look back at our previous example and you'll notice that happened. Sine and cos would be negative. And in quadrant 4, cos theta is the only positive one, so that would leave sine and tan is negative. So the acronym CAST, I know it's not perfect because it starts in quadrant 4, but we still call it the CAST rule, tells us what is positive. Some people like the acronym or this saying add sugar to coffee because at least starts in quadrant 1. So that's another way to kind of remember this. So cosine is always positive where the x values are positive. So the x values are positive here and here, and cos will be linked to the x value always, and I'll show that a little bit more later on too. Sine is always linked to the y values. So sine's positive where the y values are positive. So if you take a look here, you have a positive y values in the top half, right? So that's quadrant 1 and 2. So x and y are linked to the coordinates cos theta and sine theta. Just by pure chance, this is alphabetical order and so is this. So sometimes that helps me remember it a little bit.